I was with somebody with a homie, and I haven't been to a mall in a minute because I usually shop at I usually shop online. So I haven't been to the mall in a minute, but I went to the mall, and you know when you go to the mall, with the fellas, single fellas, they're gonna see chicks they want to holler at, shoot at, or whatever the case may be. So um so the homie had went and saw this chick. He walked up to her. We was getting something to eat, and in the proximity, um, I was in the proximity of him. Kind of listening to him talking to her. So she was attractive. So he walked up to her and was just kind of nice, introduced himself, and he asked her like, do you got a man? And she didn't answer the question. She was just like, no, she was like, I ain't really looking for a relationship. He was like, what make you think I'm looking for a relationship? So a lot of women in the matrix, and I've experienced this, in the past. A lot of women assume that men are thirsty for dating or relationships. I remember one time I was just chilling at this happy hour at this bar by myself, and I was sitting next to some ladies, and I was just being nice, and I was just like, no, I think we were just having like a good casual conversation, and I was feeling nice, and I just like offered to to pay for her drink or whatever the case may be, and uh, her homegirl made a comment like, "Oh, you better give him your phone number," as if as if it was like a reward or treat or something for me, doing something nice. And I wasn't even, I was, in a relationship, so I wasn't really even on it. I was just being nice, but it just kind of made me feel like, damn, like men have made this impression on women that they are looking for a relationship. But in any event, so the homie asked her if she had a boyfriend. She said she wasn't looking for a relationship. And he was like, I'm not looking for a relationship either. He like, I just wanted to, hit you up or something if I want to hang out sometime, no pressure or nothing like that. So she just kind of like, she was just kind of ignoring him a little bit. He continued talking to her. And so, and she was like, so what if I did have a man? And he was like, "Well, I would expect your man would want you to respect him. So if you had a man, I'll just, leave it alone." And she was like, "What blew me was she was like, well, okay, so if I have a man, I can't have friends." And so he was just like, "Well, I wouldn't want my woman to have that mindset." So I was just like, "Damn!" I was like, "Damn, she sound modern as hell." And so it gets better. So then, he's still at this point. I'm just like, bro, just leave her alone. So he continues to try to engage with her, and he asked her, or no, she asked him how old he was, and so he was like, I'm 40. And then, you know, immaturity in women, she gonna ask him, how old do you think I am? Instead of her just, he asked her, okay, how old are you? She couldn't respond maturely, so she responded like a little girl, how old do you think I am? So he like, well, maybe 26, 27. And so she was like, you think it's okay to talk to a woman 26 if you're 40? I'm just like, oh, I'm like, what the fuck is she talking about? I'm just like, where? I'm like, where is this coming from? You know what I mean? And so he was just like, it's men date women 20 years younger, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So he didn't get the number, but I was just like, I was kind of shocked. I was just kind of shocked at her response because I'm just like, man, she looked like she was in her mid to older 20s. And I'm just like, where is this mentality coming from? Yes, there are women, um, there are women that do believe in they could have male friends. So that's not nothing new. But at this point, enough people done talked about relationships that women kind of should know that that's not something that men um that men really is cool with like that. At least far as my peers. Now the age different thing, I'm just thinking like, okay, I could see if she was like 20, 21 or younger, and her saying like, okay, don't you think you're a little too old for me? But she was like, he was, him being 40 and she being probably in her mid to older 20s. I really didn't think, the average person would see any issue with that. But it just kind of made me realize like, damn, the Matrix is fucked up. The Matrix is fucked up when it comes to dating. That just that just blew me. You know what I mean? He, and the homie, he not a bad looking guy. Like he pulled chicks. So I was just kind of like, damn. If he facing that, I could just imagine what you know average or lesser attractive man probably get. Like it's bad. I'm gonna try to catch some of the comments while I'm driving. You know what I mean? Um, Somebody asked, "Am I still married?" Yes, I'm still married. Um, let's see. He said, "Let's get." Charles said earlier, "Let's get one thing sorted out. We've all had issues dating American women. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'll once again use the fishing analogy. An expert fisherman has to change rivers and lakes." Let's see, let's see, let's see. He said malls are dead in 2023. He said, and it's not an ego trip. There are issues, especially with that first date. Uh, Hold on. Dating in the U.S. is a hot mess right now. It was easier 20 years ago, but sure, nowadays it's a minefield. Yeah, it is crazy, man. Salute Keith. Salute Big Mike. Salute Charles. I'm gonna try to catch up in a minute. But but yeah, man, that situation kind of really blew me. And it was something else I wanted to touch on too. Yeah, it was something else I was thinking about too. So that mindset, let me know what y'all think about that mindset. Like, is that just what? If that's just how women are just programmed like that. Like it was always like a minority of women, but I was just kind of blown away. So I was thinking today, just kind of walking, clearing my mind. I was thinking today, I'm just like, man. So he didn't even get the number, right? And I'm sure he wasn't, and I'm sure he wasn't interested in the things she said. So I'm just like, all right, that is so that's one layer. That's one layer a man got to go through meeting a chick. The first layer is getting the phone number, right? So look, I'm gonna go over these layers, like how difficult it is for guys in the matrix. So the first layer, typically historically has been the easiest layer getting the number, right? When I was young, high school, maybe college, you go to the mall, get, depending on how long you get the mall, I could get 5, 10, 20 numbers, depending on how long I'm at the mall, and just, shooting at every chick I find attractive. So getting a number has always, for the most part, most guys can accomplish that. That's like the first layer, getting the number. Now, getting the number is like a fucking challenge. You got women that's saying, "I'll give you my Instagram," things like that. So so to get to the number, she gotta see that your Instagram is popping, and then maybe from there you might get the number, at that point. But just understand this context. The first layer now is hard, getting the number. So let's think about the next layers after you get the number, right? So after you get the number, now you got to go through some more bullshit. You know, women have created this culture where they like to just text all the time, right? So then so this is when like text messaging like first came out. So women created this culture as far as text messaging. They started it first. Then as men, we just tend to follow suit, because we like, all right, chicks don't like phone calls, so dudes just kind of follow suit and become texters. And then once the dudes became texters, now the women are saying, guys text too much, they don't call. So it's like, what the fuck is we supposed to do? Like, y'all created this culture. So nevertheless, you get the phone number. So in your mind, you're like, all right, I don't want to like hound this chick or whatever the case may be. So you just text, because you're trying to appease her for the most part. Now after you got the number, she might, after maybe 3 days, she might just ghost you, because she probably feel like, he ain't again. Another layer. So let's just say, you picked up the phone, y'all had a decent conversation or two, and you were pretty much talking about like linking up for the first time, or the first date, the first date or meetup, whatever you want to call it, right? So that's the second layer. The second layer is um having a conversation over the phone. That's the second layer, which, like I said, historically that never really been too much of an issue. You get the number. Um, the chick, most of the time you'll at least be able to have one conversation with a chick before she decide if you boring or lame or exciting or whatever the case may be. But then sometimes you just got the wrong number, or you got a phone number and she just never intended on talking to you anyway, but you got the number. But anyway, that's the second layer. Second layer is conversation. Now, some of the things dudes run into with conversations, from what I'm trying to remember, is that you can say the wrong thing. So you have to be careful on the topic. You might bring up politics, religion, or even sex. Just something controversial. So you can lose out on getting the date just based on what you say. So if you want to get to the third layer, which is actually going on a date, you kind of got to have neutral conversations. You can't, what I mean? So it's like it's a bullshit mind game. These layers you don't these are layers you don't go these are layers you don't have to deal with foreign women overseas. I've never experienced that. So you plan a date. Now, we've seen what's been trending on social media about chicks saying, Cheesecake Factory don't they got these list of restaurants on don't do on a first date. you know so So guys got to deal with that. So now, because this is how chicks operate when it comes to a date. They're not gonna really. Well, I ain't gonna say this. There are some that may suggest what they want to do, you know, but then some don't want to come off as some don't want to come off a certain way, so they leave this gray area so you can suggest something, and a lot of times they won't even counter that. Like if they ask you, okay, what do you want to do? If you say some shit they don't like, they might not even talk to you after that. They might be cool, or they might let you plan it, and then cancel on the last minute. Or if she makes a suggestion or you ask her a suggestion, then a lot of times you know that's where y'all might end up doing. Because that's somewhere where she want to go, or the case may be. So to even get through that fourth layer to have a date, y'all got to be in agreement on where to go. Now, a foreign woman, um, you're just gonna say, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and they like, okay, cool. That is pretty straightforward. This is what we're gonna do. That's pretty much it. So let's say you get through the fourth layer, a date. Most likely, she accepted a date because you guys are doing something that she wants to do. You know, Either she picked it or you suggested something that she was like, okay, I'm cool with that. You get to the date. So the fifth layer, is having a good date. That's the fifth layer. So now it's just like the phone conversation, right? You don't want to say nothing that's gonna, you have to be on eggshells. You have to make sure you don't say anything corny. You have to make sure you don't, you got to make sure you don't do anything stupid. You got to make sure you don't cough, sneeze, burp. It's I don't even want to say chicks, it's bitches that are judging you based on what you order. It's like you could order something, they looking like, oh, why you getting that? Because I'm eating it. That's why. You know, it's been times I went to a nice restaurant and maybe I just didn't have an appetite for something elegant. I just wanted a burger. But I know the burger was going to be, it was going to be a nice burger, well presented, you know? And some people would say, well, why would you eat a hamburger out here? Because that's what the fuck I want to do. So this is the shit a lot of guys have to deal with. This is the shit a lot of guys have to deal with. So back to the conversation, you can't talk about anything too controversial. You can't really, don't fucking bring up Kevin Samuels. Don't talk about ideology and things like that. Like, cause most men, they want to, the hope is to smash. That is the end goal, to smash. Now, if something else comes from it, a relationship or whatever, so be it. But smashing is like, that's what guys are trying to hit. So, guys, a lot of guys are not going to risk controversial conversations to turn her off. But the fucked up thing is that you have to go on a date just playing these, with this mental game. And then you got these dating coaches saying, that's game. No, it's not. It is fucking agony, immaturity, and it's not a great experience. You know what I mean? At least for the man's per se. So we make it through the date. We make it through the date. It is, nothing bad happened. You know, she report to her homegirls, say, okay, he looked nice, smelled nice, conversation was cool, meal was cool, cool. So now, depending on the type of chick, the time of day, the vibe, you know, maybe maybe you can invite her back to your spot, or vice versa. You know what I mean? That's not uncommon. Chicks want to smash too. They're horny too. It's just that certain things, like chicks start off wet and they end up, well, I don't want to generalize. Some chicks start off wet and you can say something to make them dry, and some chicks start off dry and you can say something to make them wet. But nevertheless, it is possible for her to go back to your spot or not. Or if not, you know, the second, you make it to the second or third date, you know, that should be on the table. So we're gonna go over the scenario of going to each other's spot. Going to each other's spot. So what I found was, this is just a tidbit. Most even uptight chicks, most when I lived in New York, that was like the ideal city for dating, because you can go get something to eat. A lot of times it was like a bar or a lounge nearby. And I've actually got uptight chicks loosened up after a drink and we like dancing. Now she ready, you know. But in any event, let's just say after the date, she's willing to come through. Willing to come through. Let me shout out to Super Chat. What's good? You waffle? You traveling, bro? He said, I would agree that dating is easier overseas because there aren't as many rules, such as where to go on the first date or paying for an Uber. Yeah, that is true. So many rules. So many rules these chicks got. All right. So she's coming to the crib, or you going to her crib. Now, once that happens, I would say this: you pretty much, it's pretty much a done deal that you're gonna smash, right? Only thing you can do is fuck it up. You know, she has pretty much said, it's on you, Playboy. Her crib or your crib, for the most part. For the most part. Now, unless she in a red or something like that. So you get to the crib, y'all talking, maybe watch, maybe turn on the TV, maybe drink a little bit, and somebody, most likely you make the first move or whatever the case may be. Cool, cool, cool. So this is what guys, this is what really fucks up a lot of things going probably to a relationship stage, if that's the goal, the sex part. So like you just mentioned, it's a lot of rules, right? So women, a lot of these modern women have rules when it comes to sex. And this is something I noticed when I started dating overseas, right? And so this is one of the reasons why it's just better dating overseas. And when it comes to sex, it's not just, you know, developing countries, first world countries too. Like the sex experiences is different in Europe, is different in outside the United States, because it's freaks in Europe. There's freaks in Europe. I've heard a lot of things. So when it comes to sex, right? So I'm going to talk about what sex is like overseas, at least from my experience. The first thing, and guys, you guys can attest to this. The first thing when it comes to sex is duration, right? I noticed that when you have sex with a woman in the US, the expectation is for you to not come at a certain amount of time. So you have to you have to, train your body like damn near broken us like slaves, like sex slaves. We have to semen retention or whatever you want to call it, right? We have to be able to hold our nut for a certain amount of time because we don't want to get clowned or they feeling like they didn't have an orgasm, whatever the case may be. So when I first encounters overseas, women feeling like they sex not good enough. They like, oh man, they like, okay, why he hasn't came yet? They feeling like something's wrong with them. And you like, no, baby, it ain't like that. I'm just trying to make sure you satisfied. And then I learned that, a lot of these chicks, they was like, for them, sex should be like 15, no longer than like 15 minutes. And I was like, that's it. I mean, and that's just what the expectation is. Sex 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, like all that making love stuff that we've been kind of broken into thinking that's how we're supposed to sexually please a woman. That's not a requirement. It's actually frowned upon. Now they might want to these foreign women, they may want to have sex for 15 minutes, but then they want to have sex again. That is something that is common, but long duration of sex. So that's one thing that comes with dating in the matrix, and that's a difference. Another thing, and you guys could let me know if you can attest to this or not. When it comes to oral sex, now I only could speak on well, I, Latin America. I'll speak on Latin America. When it came to like oral sex, they have no problem, doing that to a man, performing oral sex. That's not an issue. What I mean? Some love it. A lot of chicks in the Matrix love giving head too. So I mean, it's not, that's not really an issue for the most part. But the difference is that it being reciprocated. What I mean? It's been numerous occasions where a foreign woman did not want oral sex performed on her. She just like no, and I was just like, wow. I'm like, okay, cool. To the point where after a while you don't even try to initiate performing oral sex on a chick because from my experience they just they wasn't into that. They wanted to perform oral sex on you, but they didn't want you to perform it on her. But when it comes to a woman in a matrix, that is a expectation that you pretty much eliminate yourself if you don't get down like that with a matrix. So not only in a matrix you have to put, they want you to go a long time without coming, and then two, they want you to they want oral sex performed on them too, and they want you to do it a certain way. They want you to break your neck, get a cramp in your neck. They want you to do it for a long time. They want you to do it until they come. So it's a lot of work you have to do just on that part. You done made it to the fifth layer. Now you got all these expectations. Another expectation that's different is that two things, right? So all of us been in situations where, maybe we just wasn't ready yet. Maybe we was nervous, maybe she just came off a little too intimidating. And that's masculinity. I never had erection problems with a foreign chick because a foreign chick has never made me feel intimidated. They never gave off this masculine energy, like, come on, hurry up and F me. It was always them just sitting there like innocent flowers and waiting for me to conquer them. You know what I mean? It was always from the aspect of them being inexperienced and me being experienced. Even if they was experienced, what I mean, the tone, the mood was as if they wasn't experienced and they just, waiting for me. You know what I mean? So I was always ready. And if I wasn't ready, what I mean, all you got to do is just, signal like, hey, get me up, and there's no problem. You can't really do that to a matrix chick, especially a chick that you smashing for the first time. You know, first time. If you're not ready, they damn near got a 5-minute clock in their head. You're not up in 5 minutes, they're gonna be like, all right, we could try this next time. You know what I mean? No fellatio, no assistance. So you got all this masculine energy, like F me now, nigga. That's that, you know what I mean? So it's just so much, it's just so much that you gotta, go through, even if you make it to make it through that fifth layer. So my point, the point I'm trying to get to is that you got to make it through all these layers, and then you finally get to the layer where you about to smash, and you have to deal with, satisfying her, sexually, which can make or break. So you done did all this work to get to the draws, and now, you have to perform like a, you know, pretty much like you a sex slave. That's pretty much how it is. Let me know what y'all think. I just pulled up, so let me know what y'all think about that, man. So it's just, so when I think about all that, I'm just like, damn, man. I just don't know. I just feel, I feel sorry. I feel sorry, man, because guys, a lot of guys just don't know, um, or don't want to know, man. Like, you don't have to put yourself through this this torment when it comes to dating. You don't have to do that. Oh, another thing that I see a lot too is uh, is guys is how guys get rejected. That is another thing I see, how guys get rejected. Now, anytime I've approached a woman overseas, and whether she wasn't interested or whatever the case may be, I was never turned down in a disrespectful way, or turned down in a way that made me feel, you know, not made me feel a certain way, but I was just never turned down. And, I was always turned down gracefully. I've seen too many times uh, women, they will either flat out ignore you, or some might say something rude, or some may have a facial expression of disgust when turning when turning down. And I was thinking about that. I was like, women, when something happens to a woman, um, let's say let's say she's in public, and let's say, these conversations on would you protect somebody, blah blah blah. So you have a lot of women that will say, men should do this, or they don't feel protected by men. And and I've heard a lot of guys, make arguments and say, you know what, I'm not obligated to protect you because you're not my family, you're not my wife. I got to come home to my wife or whatever the case may be. Like I can't put myself on the line to protect you. And I I I agree. Uh, it was my homie had tried to holler at some cleaning lady, and she just kind of like ignored him in a disrespectful. She wasn't respectful in turning him down. And I was thinking like I wouldn't want to. I mean, me personally. I mean, some people may feel a certain way about it. Like you can still help somebody if they're not interested in you. That's not what I'm saying. A woman doesn't have to be interested in me for me to want to help her out. You know what I mean? But if she was nice about it, let's say she was nice about it and, she needed help with something, put in her car, or let's say something was like somebody like, violated her or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I'll be like, okay, man, she was cool. I may be compelled to help her if the situation is safe, if the situation is safe for me. But a rude chick, I don't have to, if she on the side of the road with a flat tire, I'm driving the fuck by. Good luck. Good luck. So my point is that I don't know who's nice or who's an asshole, right? I only want to help nice people. And so since I don't know you, since I don't know if you're a nice person or not, I'm not gonna help unless I know you personally. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the mindset I have about that. So let me see. Let me catch up on some of these comments. Let's see where we at. Let's see. Charles said earlier, mid 20s or 40s isn't a bad range at all. I agree. Yeah, I want to get on that too. He said it's all about programming for them to have those views about age. Yeah, that is true. And what's funny about women is that it's fine individually if a woman feels like she's too young for you or you're too old for her. That's fine. She could feel that way about yourself. But they'll have an opinion about another woman or man that chooses to date younger or chooses to date older. Like that doesn't have anything to do with you. Like, why are you bothered? Why are you bothered about that? You don't have to do it. So it's like not only it's just like a lot of these women, they want every woman to think like them when it comes to a lot of things. You know what I mean? And I have an issue with that. He said, now swap the genders and they're gonna big up the woman for getting a younger dude, but when a man does the same thing, he's a yep. I seen someone on Instagram, some young dude look like he was in his 20s, and this old, I think it was Minister Jap had it on his Instagram. This lady like she was a grandma. He was talking about he was gonna pipe her down, and she's just like yeah. Now if it was the other way around, people would be in an uproar. We might say I've seen 70-year-old men with a 20 years old chick in Chile, and no one was eyeing them. Yeah, that is that's that's what a patriarch is. That's the difference between a patriarch and matriarch. And I was thinking about this too, because in a patriarch, some of these patriarch countries in Africa or Asia, men set the tone, set the standard. So men create the culture of dating whoever they want, whatever they determine the legal age is. Men make that decision. Women can't challenge those. Women don't and can't challenge those norms in a patriarch. So that's a key difference. That's a key difference to see from a patriarch versus a matriarch. Dating age difference. Um, this is a little off the subject, but I was talking to someone in Africa about how men pass inheritance to their children, and in a lot of cultures, especially in Africa, inheritance gets passed to the sons because men understand that inheritance passed to the daughter is intended on marrying a man to take care of her, and then if you pass inheritance land to a daughter, now you're kind of introducing your father's assets to another man, when he should be kind of providing his own, so to speak. So he give it to his sons or the sons. So now the sons can provide for their future wives. So that's the patriarch. And I've heard in, I don't know if it's Ghana or Nigeria, that men get custody over their kids more than women do if they split. So those type of institutions is true patriarchs because um they are I want to say, yeah, they are prioritizing men to a certain extent, but they understand that if they have daughters, men are supposed to provide for the daughters. So everybody at the end of the day should be taken care of. The daughter, if she's getting married, and the sons is taken care of from inheritance. So I just wanted to kind of talk about you know, patriarchs. I'm gonna get more depth into that in a different episode. Salute Running Trials with Alex. Charles said, I'm an introvert. I prefer to text, to be honest. Okay, okay. What's good? What's good, man? Chilling, man. Chilling. Big Mike said, nowadays, with chicks between 20 and 35 in the Matrix, they see that if your IG isn't popping, then you're going to get next. Yep. Ash L said, the facts. That's facts. No games when it comes to foreign women. Charles said, I have no problem getting girls in the U.S. Me, y'all sure about that? Buck Travis said, LOL, don't talk about gun rights. Most women in the States are anti-gun. He said, Charles said, there's a thing they have called X, and it's basically they'll hunt for every little thing to use an excuse to drop your ass from being considered dateable. It is crazy. I seen on Instagram, I seen, like, I guess uh some news some news outlet, they did like a polling or had some polling results, and they asked men basically you know what percentage of qualities a woman have to have for them to date, and I guess it was something like 80%. Men said women, if they at least have 80%, men, they'll be content with that. And women interviewed, they wanted 100% of things she said wanted for it. And when it came to deal breakers, men had about 4 or 5 deal breakers, and the women interviewed, they had over 100 deal breakers. So that is that is that is the matrix. That is the matrix. Charles said, "No, fuck games. So tired of hearing that word. I feel you. I'm tired of that too." Uwaf said, "I'm going to Guadalajara in December." Okay, back to Mexico. Ash L said, Latin chicks are going straight to rocking the mic. No lies told, man. No lies told, man. He said, Latinas and Brazilians are a lot more understanding in that department, a lot more. That's right, man. It is. They understand male anatomy. They just understand men. You know, they just understand men. They're like problem solvers. They're like, okay, Poppy, like, you want me to do something, or they are patient when it comes. They just understand men. They understand it. You know. Cortez Smith was good. He said, "What men don't understand is that women don't care about bedroom performance." Hold on. What men don't understand is that women don't care about bedroom performance itself. They just like the idea of working men to death. That's crazy. I mean, they like to see men spin. You can when Groupon was popping, and to your point, a lot of women in the Matrix, they just want to see you spend money. Groupon. To those that don't remember Groupon was basically they had offered discounted prices for restaurants, events, etc. Because it basically if you prepay for it. So let's say like the Brazilian steakhouse. And what's the Brazilian steakhouse that's popular? Foco de Chao. Let's just say Foco de Chao was on Groupon, and let's say if you went to the restaurant, you'll pay like, let's say 100 per person. I don't know the prices, but let's say 100 per person. So on a day you'll spend 200. But let's say Groupon, if you prepay for it, it might be $100, right? So you just go to the restaurant and they will scan your Groupon and you'll eat the same meal that you would have spent $200 for. You just paying $100 for. It's women that was turned off to see that you pay with something with Groupon. Even if it's the restaurant you want to go to, whatever the case may be. Just the fact that you didn't spend $200 and you saved $100, there's women that are turned off by that. Like that is the most insanely sickly thing like a person could even be turned off on. Cortez Smith said, I know they don't care about actual performance because they love erectile dysfunction having Pookie. Charles said Groupon was popular because we were in a recession and restaurants were struggling. You use Groupon, you got next. Yeah, man. It's crazy, man. He said, don't be their foodie call either. Yeah. Men are looked at as just a certain way. And we use the term savage sometimes. The women they become savages. You know what I mean? A savage is pretty much somebody that don't give a fuck. They have turned into savages. And I don't really, I mean, obviously, I never was the one to complain about chicks in the Matrix. I just did something about it. My motto is, and still is, don't complain about anything unless you're going to do something about it. So they don't, what I mean? So I don't blame the women that become savages because, guys need to become savages too. I mean, and some guys are like that. That's just, I mean, I guess that's kind of what, guys like Fresh and Fit push the red pill, basically guys to be savages back, at the end of the day. But it's just too much of a waste of negative energy to just do it. Like my peace of mind, a lot of guys have gotten peace of mind by just traveling somewhere else where the culture is different, where the culture is more favorable for men, and it's worked for a lot of guys. The only difference is the only reason why some guys say they still mess around in the Matrix is because they need to smash something in between trips. You know what I mean? They want to hook up. They can't go a certain amount of time without having sex. So some guys still deal with Matrix chicks. But I was never that type of guy. I could wait. I could wait to see my woman or whatever the case may be. Charles said, yeah, that shit was so fucking bizarre. Women are narcissists as hell nowadays. Why they're playing these childish games is beyond me. They're mad because you're saving money. Weird, 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 weird. Men cannot save money. He said, fuck being a savage. Go play in another field. Take your all and go home and play on a different court. Yeah, take your ball and go somewhere else. Yeah, that is pretty much the best advice. The best advice. He said, yes, those men need self discipline. Yeah, I wish more men could have more self discipline, man. That is, I don't know where you learn that skill from. I don't know if that's something you could learn in the military, or I don't know. I don't know where I got that self discipline from. I don't know, but men supposed to have some form of self discipline. You know, some people can fast. Some people can you know go without sex. Some people can be disciplined to a lot of things. So you know, limit. Holding off sex could. I mean, that's another conversation. But guys having more control over sex, can do it if guys are more disciplined.